Low-key, absolute banger at 135 pounds. We have Chris Gutierrez taking on Felipe Colares, and I'm going to start with Felipe Colares because I have a lot to say about Chris Gutierrez. Felipe Colares, pleasant surprise in the UFC. I mean, you look at it, and is it the sexiest record that he's had since he entered the promotion? No. He lost to Geraldo de Freitas by decision. He beat Domingo Plarte by split decision. Son of Fire. Did I think he should have won that fight more handily? Yeah, because Son of Fire didn't look great in the UFC. Then he loses to Montel Jackson. That's forgivable.
I don't care.
Jesse Strader lost to Montel Jackson. He was Aaron Carter's boxing coach, so take that for what it's worth. And then he beat Luke Sanders. And in that fight, Felipe Colares showed me two things. He's tough as a $2 steak. He's willing to give one to take one. And this guy can rally back in a fight. For Felipe Colares, I learned a lot in that one. I knew he was a fast striker. I knew he was good on the outside. I know Luke Sanders has a tendency to slow down a little bit. The stats might not actually support that, and I'm going to talk about the stats a lot in this fight, which is something that I don't do very often whatsoever. That's where the channel started, but it's not that important when you make videos like this. It really isn't. But for Felipe Colares, I love his striking. I don't love him on the ground, but he has decent jiu-jitsu to go along with it. It's just his takedown defense isn't all that good. For Chris Gutierrez, since losing his UFC debut by submission against Raoni Barcelos, other than a 10-8 round against Cody Durden, this guy's looked unstoppable. Like, he's been insane. I'll let you go, but I have the numbers here.
I was going to say, Gutierrez doesn't even look like the same fighter who had that UFC debut.
He spent time with different promotions, like, I'd say major regional promotions. I think if Chris Gutierrez was able to string together some fights and fight with more regularity, this is a guy that maybe not a household name, but a hardcore's name of that's a guy you got to watch every single time. I think he is, but if you don't, like if you're out there and you're watching me going, man, Craig, you pumped the tires of fighters in the prelims of a bad fight night card, I'd say, whoa, you got to watch this one. It's a good fight.
You're 100% right. The thing about Chris Gutierrez that you have to love is the leg kicks. It's obvious. It's like the first thing that jumps out on the page. Now, the thing that I love about his leg kicks, though, is that he doesn't just throw them because that's sort of the meta in MMA right now. That's the modern trend. He throws them because it sets up the rest of his game, and that's not often something we see far down on the prelims of a fight night card like you had said.
You want those numbers?
Let's hear them.
I'll give you those numbers. This is Chris Gutierrez through every single fight that he's had under the UFC banner, including his loss to Raoni Barcelos. 65% of the strikes he threw in that fight were leg kicks. Now I'm going to go on. The percentage always goes with leg kicks. Against McDonald, 47% of his strikes. Against De Freitas, 50% of his strikes. Against Morales, 60% of his strikes. That was a win. TKO due to leg kicks. Against Cody Durden, 43%. Against Andre Ewell, 46%. And he buckled those small legs. And I say that, Andre Ewell, Matt Allen, Craig Allen, very similar body types. So when I look at that, Chris Gutierrez is probably, and I think, you know what, we can crown him. He's the ketchup chip champion. He's the Canadian ketchup chip champion of leg kicks. That's all I have right in front of me. That, and I guess I got another prop. I'll slow it down. A Carlos Newton shoe with Fight Night picks. That's pretty cool. Jordan 1. Had that made by Kenny.
Craig's just showing off stuff that he has now.
Great stuff. Point I have, Chris Gutierrez is one of the best leg kickers out there. Also has pretty good wrestling. Has decent hands that I think with time might get a little bit better at Factory X. I'd like to see them improve a little bit more. But the problem that he had against Cody Durden was that early grappling in that fight.
And it really was. But here's the thing. Cody Durden is a very tricky grappler. And if you're going to get 10-8'd, it's probably because he's going to mix you up on the ground, turn you into a pretzel. The thing that Gutierrez showed, though, was he can get through that adversity and still look really good in the back stages of that fight. The thing I will say about Gutierrez and his hands, though, I do think we are starting to see a little bit of the progression in his boxing. Because up until that Andre Ewell fight, and here's the thing. I wasn't completely sold on Gutierrez until that last performance.
Listen, I picked Ewell in that one. John Anik talked about both guys' custody battles. It was just a weird one.
It was a weird fight. And the thing about Ewell is that he's a really dangerous striker on the outside. But Gutierrez used that against him. He knew that on the outside, that's where I can attack you with my calf kick. And once he did destroy that front leg of Andre Ewell, that's when he was able to mix in his own boxing. And he was doing really well in pure boxing against a guy like Andre Ewell. And if you're able to out-punch somebody like Andre Ewell, I do think that it is starting to show a little bit of the progression in the hands of Chris Gutierrez. Now, against Felipe Colares, he's going to have to get those leg kicks going early and often, but that kind of has to be said on every single Chris Gutierrez fight. I do think that the start is going to be important, though, because when we talk about leg kicks, when we talk about body shots, those techniques are effective in the 5th round, but they're a lot better in the 1st round because they have an accumulatory effect on your opponent. When you land things like leg kicks and body shots, they hurt your opponent and they slow them down, and that's what I think Gutierrez has to do, because this is the thing I worry about with Gutierrez on the feet. Yes, he's a good striker, he's got good power. He can get outpaced and he can get outworked. If there's a fighter in there exactly, who can move on the feet a lot. Like, if he ever fought your boy, Douglas Silva de Andrade, like, that would be a crazy fight. But Gutierrez would really have to watch with some of those boxing and some of the power shots of De Silva up the middle. I'm not saying those are similar shots that Colares can land, but if Colares is able to just be the faster guy with his hands on the outside, I think he can have a lot of success early on, even though he is a big underdog.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, for Felipe Colares, he is really fast with his hands, and if you look at the odds, Gutierrez open to minus 250 favorite. He's minus 266 right now. For Colares, open to plus 210. He's roughly about there right now. If we look at the Tapology picks, like just about every fight on this card so far, they're not even close. 96% Gutierrez, 80% by decision. For the 4% that have Colares, 56% by decision, something around there. And yeah, when I look at this one, to me, MMA math. One guy beat Geraldo de Freitas. One guy lost to him, albeit Chris Gutierrez only beat him by split. But that's the thing. Geraldo de Freitas is another one of those guys you never hear about. And then you watch him fight and it's like, oh, well, this guy's kind of fun. He's kind of different for this division. I like Gutierrez in this one, but if I saw a Felipe Colares win, if I could envision it, tall stance, keeping his hands out there, moving his legs back, doing a good job of staying out of the way of some of those kicks, like Johnny Walker when he fought Thiago Santos, when he missed the kicks, when he was able to kind of move back and out of the way, I could see Colares doing that. But instead of doing what Johnny Walker did, which was stare at himself in the mirror, it's actually going out and using your hands. I like Gutierrez in this one to set things up. It was something that I wasn't totally sold on when he fought Andre Ewell, which is why I picked Ewell in that one. I thought, hey, well, he knows he's going to get kicked, so he's going to do something about it. But listen, when you're in the cage, it's different than when you're talking into a computer. I like Gutierrez in this fight. Line scares me, like pretty much every fight on this one, but I am going with Gutierrez.
He should fight Randy Costa next, too.
Matt wants Gutierrez to either fight the Zohan or who's the other name? Douglas Silva de Andrade. I'd love to see either one of those fights. And for Felipe Colares, maybe the Gaetano Pirellos of the world.
Hey, Dana White, give us a job. We're doing yours for you.
Yeah, yikes. Matt, I absolutely love this fight, though. Both of us going with Chris Gutierrez. You're not going to want to miss Question Mark Kicks. It's on Saturday, 2 hours before the prelims. We get a final look at the fights. If there's any changes, if there's any weight misses, we get the action in there. And you can have your say in the comments section, as you always do. Down below, let us know who you have, Gutierrez, Colares, and up at the top, Dern taking on Rodriguez. You're not going to want to miss it, so keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say. Let's get into it.